this real quick, and let's get into finding out what's going on with this Punisher guy. I haven't heard about this.
Diddy, that's what this shows. Every
This is gonna be
place he
interesting.
went, every single place he was,
So,
there were
Nancy,
patterns of behavior.
Nancy, I've been waiting all week to be able to talk to you about one of the witnesses. His name is Sheree Hayes, and he is known as the Punisher, who was a male exotic dancer who first met Cassie and Diddy at the Trump International Hotel in New York. He went over there presumably for a birthday party that Diddy was having for just Cassie in the hotel room, ended up having sex with Cassie. It lasted for 3 years, 5 or 6 times a year. And what he testified to were the liaisons, but he didn't talk about any kind of force or coercion. I want to bring him in right now. Sheree, first of all, welcome to the show.
Oh, so he's actually there. Wow.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm confused, based on your testimony, why prosecutors called you, because you're from Brooklyn and you did everything in New York, so there's no interstate commerce.
Looking at a guy that smashed Cassie for 3 years.
I didn't hear anything you testified about regarding force or coercion. Do you know why they called you? Did they tell you?
They did not. I was actually confused myself. I was contacted first by investigators, even before any charges, somewhere around March to May of 2024. And when they first approached me, my thought process was, "Hey guys, I don't have anything for you." I understood they were Homeland Security. It was specifically human trafficking, and it was clear. I said, "Hey, look, everything was all in the same state. I didn't see any violence, any aggression, anything that would constitute that I believe was a crime." So, I was actually surprised when I was called to testify, because I didn't see where my
he might not be retired. Who knows?
Be significant to the case.
Did you ever ask prosecutors, or did they tell you what your purpose was? Did they coach you? I'm trying to understand this.
I mean, I didn't ask questions. It was stress that, listen, just tell the truth, recall as much information as you can, just in an honest manner. And all of my
3 years, he should be able to remember something.
Questions and testimony, and even the preparation for the trial, was similar to my actual testimony on the stand. So I wasn't sure what it was going to connect to in regards to the case they were trying to prove. But I'm really unaware. I'm lost myself.
Nancy, you are such an effective prosecutor, and I'm having trouble with this one. He seems like an earnest guy. He testified. I don't see how this helped them at all.
Oh, here we go.
Well, the fact that you do not understand the charges has nothing to do with him being a truthful witness on the stand.
But why is he there?
Charged. Sean Combs is being charged with a myriad of charges, and one includes transportation to engage in prostitution. Sir, may I ask you, were you not paid for sex acts? That's prostitution, right?
Yeah, but the interstate transportation part is missing. The interstate transportation part, the Mann Act, requires interstate transportation. He was in state. He just said that. He was in state. He didn't leave state. He didn't come from New Jersey.
As I was trying to say before you so rudely interrupted, I know it's like throwing holy water on a possessed demon. Every time I start explaining the law, Takapina goes crazy. It kind of got a crazy look in his eye too. But the point is, the Punisher, Sheree Hayes, is part of a pattern of bringing in sex workers to be paid to perform illicit activities. He's part of a bigger picture. The fact that he wasn't flown in from Vegas means nothing. He's one of many.
It does. It means everything, Nancy.
It's very plain. Sex, see, that's what you do. When I beat you on one argument, you fall back. RICO. Well, I can beat you on that argument too, and so can the feds.
It's not the Mann Act. You're talking about the Mann Act. You're talking about transportation of sex workers, bringing in sex workers for prostitution.
I'm not talking about the Mann Act. I'm talking about the indictment. Which states?
Which count?
Transporting prostitutes.
Which count?
Third count.
There are multiple counts of this, and there are other sex workers that were flown in, and there's testimony of that.
The Mann Act
the poor Punisher.
Yes.
Nancy, do you agree?
No, not the Mann Act. This is not a Mann Act case,
count.
as you accurately pointed out.
It's not
but
the Mann Act
indictment
case.
Again
He's
charges
with
bringing in sex workers. He's a sex worker, and he's brought. You're talking gibberish. And another thing I don't understand about this panel is that you're all saying, yeah, Kid Cudi's car, and you're acting like it's nothing.
It is a Mann Act case.
The indictment lays out arson as one of the predicate acts.
Here's the things. Sheree has had a stressful enough week. I don't want to heap that on you. So
get him, Joe.
Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
So Ashley and
that's
Ebony,
hilarious.
I think one of the most effective things the prosecutors did this week was
Joe had
call
enough.
Dawn Hughes to the stand. She is a forensic psychologist.
We talked about Dawn too.
Essentially about Stockholm syndrome, and that there are reasons that women don't leave relationships that are abusive and when the power dynamic is out of whack. And she seemed very effective when it came to trying to kind of blow up this notion that because Cassie stayed for 11 years, that she consented to everything. It seemed like that had an impact.
Yeah, let me tie Sheree Hayes, who we just talked
Before they get into it, and we're talking about consent, I don't think anybody believes she consented to everything. I think there was a lot that she consented to. I don't think she consented to the abuse necessarily. There may be some reasons why, but there are parts of it that she clearly consented to and said that she wanted. Again, if we're making this a domestic violence case, I'm done. Throw this dude under the jail. It's terrible. But when it comes to the coercive part of it, I think that's what we're missing. And that's the issue here. But let's see what Dawn had to say. We read the testimony.
To Dr. Hughes, because I believe that Sheree Hayes not only proved Nancy's point of pattern, maybe not the sex trafficking because he was local, but it's a pattern of behavior. It corroborated all the descriptions that Cassie gave on the stand. And there's Dr. Hughes to come right afterwards to say, you know, the coercion doesn't always look like it does in the movies. Sometimes, you know, this kind of behavior is so much more nuanced. When you are a victim of coercive behavior, if you're an abused wife, girlfriend, husband,
not seeing the
you
coercion.
go along with things and you smile to make things better. And Sheree Hayes,
I hate to interrupt, but with Dawn Hughes, when you're an abused victim, do you just ask for it without being prompted? I don't see that. I don't see where Dawn said, yes, and sometimes they'll even say, hey, babe, you know what I'm in the mood for right now? A freak off. What? I didn't hear that part from her. I think Joe's probably going to get into it here shortly, but let's see.
Punisher said, it didn't look like coercion to me. I was in there doing my prostitution business and everything seemed fine. And there was Dr. Hughes to explain why. I thought it was very, very effective because a lot of people on that jury may not understand domestic violence and they do need a doctor. They do need an expert to explain why somebody would keep going back to that husband who just keeps beating you, keep going back to that boyfriend who just keeps beating you. And that was an incredibly well and articulated argument for why Cassie might go on like this for 11 years.
And Nancy Grace mentions clairvoyance, which is so perfect. It's so perfect, right, Harvey? Because what was it just last week on this very show? We discussed this. Nancy and I talked about how the Stockholm syndrome of it all could affect a victim's not feeling free to leave, not feeling that she had autonomy over whether she stays or goes, and feeling the shame and guilt around that, right? Well, on this very show, just last week, we talked about how much the prosecution had to make the case. They couldn't leave the jurors to figure it out. They needed to put just exactly this type of expert witness, this type of clinical forensic psychologist who specializes in physical and sexual abuse to help the jurors, as Ashley pointed out, who are not necessarily experts on these dynamics, understand how they work at a microscopic level. And I think that this was the most brilliant thing the prosecution has done actually so far to make it plain.
Harvey, she's right. Remember last week she had on her pink outfit and she was going to go raise awareness for battered women?
Yep.
And
Thank you,
I
Nancy.
recall that when I was volunteering at the Battered Women's Center, that they had to train me and train me and train me not to say on the hotline, why don't you leave? Because it's not like that. It's not that simple. And to all of us, we think, well, just leave. But the women feel they can't leave. And if you don't believe them, take a look at that big gash on Cassie Ventura's forehead that she had to have
And look
plastic
what
surgery
happened.
on.
Look what happened when she did get another boyfriend.
Miss Ventura,
right? Look what happened, guys.
Bruises.
Look what happened.
It's not we're saying just leave. It's we're saying what is it gonna take? What was it gonna take for Cassie? Not only what was it gonna take, but why? There's a reason why. Was it because she loved him? Maybe that was something in there. Was it because of the benefits that she got? Maybe, yeah, maybe some of that was there. Was it because of the shame? Was it because of several things? That's what, as they said, we don't know, and we have to hear as someone who's on the jury, we have to understand why this happened. Sometimes there's different reason with every situation. Every situation is going to be different. So it's not like, hey, just leave. We get that part of it. But it's confusing when you hear one thing from Cassie and she's saying certain things, and then you look at the situation over an extended period of time. It's like, I mean, is it just because of the money? Is it just because she wanted to get somewhere? She asked this man and told this man she wanted to marry him and have his kid. So, Don Hughes, you're going to have to, as a jury, you're going to have to tell me, when we're talking about, and if we get into Stockholm syndrome, are these some patterns that you see here? Does this person ask to participate in certain behaviors? Do they do this for an extended period of time? Do they say they want to advance the relationship?
Happened when Cassie got another boyfriend. She got a boyfriend named Kid Cudi, and everything started to happen to him too. And then sex tapes were threatened to be released of her and Kid Cudi. That's why you don't leave.
Joe, she was a powerful witness. She was a powerful witness.
Jealous boyfriend, horrific human being. And I agree with what Ashley just said. I think this witness does help the prosecutors bridge the gap between consent and coercion. I do. But the defense has to do something very important here. The defense has to remind the jury that she never treated the accusers in this case. They have to remind the jury that they never treated the accusers.
That's what they did,
she never treated the accusers. And her testimony is generalized and theoretical.
Good.
And that the challenge is to prevent the jury from mistaking clinical analysis for actual proof of what happened in this case. That's going to be the challenge for the defense.
Okay,
it's a powerful witness. Don't get me wrong. But she never spoke to anyone.
And Harvey,
here.
I've just about had it with you too. You keep saying he's just a jealous boyfriend. That's saying like
I just told you I thought this guy. I just thought
just misunderstood.
I literally just said to you I thought this was an incredibly powerful witness. As a matter of fact, our TMZ producer Brian Andrews was in the courtroom. How did the jury respond to Hughes?
I want to hear this. Oh man, we got another commercial. Dang, it'll be a quick one though. And I want to know what y'all think about that in the comments and in the chats too. Because with this whole situation going down, with Don Hughes not treating her, is some of that background I talked about going to be left out? Is some of that context going to be missed? Could potentially be an issue. I'm not sure from a professional standpoint if that's something that she even needs. But if y'all missed it, we already reviewed her testimony and read line by line the transcript of what Don Hughes said during her testimony, how she evaluated Cassie, the cross-examination by the defense. And it was interesting to see that not only did she say some of that wasn't exactly necessary, but you can see certain patterns with victims of this type of domestic violence. So we'll see what they say, and I'll be interested to see what the atmosphere was like in the courtroom.
7037 for a free quote.
Well, based on what I saw, Harvey, they started to zone out towards the end of it, especially when the defense went in and they said, hey, isn't it true that you're making $6,000 for being here today and you charge $600 an hour? And then the defense went into the fact that she was actually training other people how to be an expert witness.
Yes.
And that basically she was in the bag for the government, that she had been consulting the government on how they were going to file certain pleadings in the Diddy case.
And it was also pointed out, we talked about this when we reviewed her testimony, that she has never been on the other side of the fence, meaning that she's always an advocate for for the alleged victim. She hasn't in her history been on the other side or worked with, let's say, a defense attorney to say, yes, the victim in this case might not really be a victim. So that was a part of the alleged bias pointed out by the defense there too.
By the time they were done with her, the good doctor kind of left with her head held high, but a lot of people were kind of like,
So all her analysis always falls on one side of the table. That's something that you point out to a jury, and a jury understands, hey, this is a hired gun for one side. It's that simple.
Exactly.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, though. If the defense wants to bring any experts up there, the prosecution makes the very same argument. How much were you paid, Mr. Smith?
Okay,
you're right.
So there was
It depends on the
testimony.
situation,
I can't
too.
wait to show you this.